Hey everyone, Roxabox90 here with another EDH Commander Top 10 Countdown. So today we're going to look at the mono green cards, the top 10 in the format, and realize that the criteria still apply. They need to be fantastic cards for mono green builds, but are also used in a number of different deck styles and a number of different deck color combinations throughout the format. So we'll start out number 10 with Genesis. Genesis is a reasonably costed body that really you want him to die because when he's in the graveyard, he on a stick will give you tons of card advantage throughout the game. Being your upkeep, paying 3 mana to get any creature card from your graveyard back in your hand lets you abuse tons of useful cards. It also allows you to win out over your opponents in terms of card advantage because getting an extra card every single turn back from the graveyard makes it that even when they kill your creature cards, you still have the advantage. And of course, when you play him initially, if you haven't discarded him into your graveyard somehow, then he acts as a beater. You swing with him, and they really don't want to block him if possible, because if they kill him, then he's better off than if he wasn't killed. And of course, it's a card that most people will throw a very powerful exile effect to try to stop him from going to the graveyard, which is, not bad to have them use it on him and not something else. Number 9, we have Tooth and Nail, one of the best tutors in the format for creatures. Basically, what it ends up becoming is it's 2 colorless mana, because most players just play it for 9, to search your library for 2 creature cards, which makes it an insane tutor, and then 7 mana to put them into play. You can play the 7 mana on its own to do one or the other, but I've almost always seen this entwined. It's just too powerful. You search for your 2 best creatures in your deck and put them into play for 9 mana. Especially when those creatures can be things like Eldrazi, can be things like the Colossi, any sort of crazy powerful creatures, this card is going to go find them and make things ridiculous. Fantastic card, number 9. Number 8, we have Sylvan Primordial. This is probably the most enjoyable, most fair, most used across format, instead of cards like Terastodon, because it costs 1 less than Terastodon. It's a 6/8 body, but it can block flying, which means it can block evading commanders. It also has the effect that it doesn't target any given opponent. Most of the time when I've played Terastodon in multiplayer, I really don't want to do all 3 to 1 player, because that just makes the person mad and makes the game kind of annoying. Whereas with Sylvan Primordial, you spread the love. You blow up just 1 permanent from everyone. And this in and of itself would be pretty insane because it's a non-creature permanent. So it hits a huge number of targets. Don't forget non-basic lands, planeswalkers, they all get hit by this. But then you get a forest card into play tapped for each one of these. So most of the time you net 3, 4, 5 forest cards depending on the size of your game. And they can be shock lands, dual lands, you name it. So you clear out cards from your deck when you land him. You get massive ramp. And he is a very, very nice mini Wrath effect that can also block commanders. He's just everything you need in a body. He's fantastic. Number 7, we have Primal Command. The commands are all really good. Primal Command is one of the best ones, and it's a very reasonable mana cost to give you 2 effects. So you get to choose a number of different effects. So you get to choose 2 of 4 different abilities. The first ability that they gain 7 life doesn't really matter all that much, but putting a non-creature permanent on top of its owner's library is pretty solid, because especially if it's a large creature or a large effect, if you do it on Eldrazi or whatever, then they have to draw that card, so they lose that turn's card draw, but they also then need to replay that card, and if it's expensive, then you've just gotten ahead in the game. Or target player shuffles his or her graveyard into the library, so of course this is great against Reanimator effects and also protects you against mill, so it's very versatile. It allows you to search your library for a creature and put it in your hand, so it's a 5-cost tutor, which is reasonable. Primal Command gives you a lot of different options, 3 of which are really, really good. And in EDH, we're toolboxing. Having a lot of different options for a card is very important. This card really nails it, and that's why it's number 7. Number 6, we have Garak Primal Hunter. Yes, I understand Garak Relentless is black and green, so he's not going to be on the list. And Garak Wildspeaker, the reason I chose Primal Hunter over Wildspeaker is because overall I think Primal Hunter is probably just the better EDH card. Garak Wildspeaker, his +1 is pretty solid. It gives you a nice ramp. His -1 gets you the same creature that Garak does, but realize it is a -1, which is annoying. And his last ability of giving 3/3 and trample, the overrun effect, really doesn't matter all that much, given that it's an ultimate. Garak Primal Hunter, all of his abilities are useful. So I would personally put him here despite the 3 green mana cost, just because his abilities are so much more useful for the game. Having your 3/3 creature come into play as a +1 means that you get him to be higher loyalty instead of a lower loyalty. His -3, you draw cards equal to the greatest power. If anyone remembers, there's a card called Greater Good, which is a fantastic green card and gives you massive, massive card draw advantage. Garak is a better Greater Good as his -3. Even paying 5 mana to do just the -3 and then have him die, most of the time in many decks will give you massive card draw. And of course, if you could just plus him up the first turn, you can use him then after to keep him alive and also give you massive advantage. So that's probably one of the best draw spells on a stick in green, if not the best one. And of course, his -6 actually matters in EDH because it basically reads -6, somehow someone must Wrath or it's game over, which means that it's a much more powerful ability than Overrun most of the time in a number of different decks. Number 5, Mana Reflection. Yes, this card should maybe be higher on the list. I don't know. It depends on the format, but my gosh, this card is just not fair. If this card lands, whoever played it is basically going to win the game in the next 2 or 3 turns because it gives you so much advantage. It's if any permanent taps for mana, which many decks run smaller utility mana ramp cards, and this card lets you go crazy. Think about it. If you tap for Soul Ring, it doubles. Just keep that in mind. Yes, Mana Reflection is out of this world, one of the best ramp effects ever, and it is worth putting into really almost any deck running green if you can fit it. It's just too powerful a card. And speaking of a card that should go into any deck running green, number 4, we have Eternal Witness. Yes, this card is just maybe even the best utility green creature card you can find. 3 for a 2/1 body, which lets you return any card from your graveyard to your hand when it enters the battlefield. That's just always useful. No matter what deck you're running it in, getting any card back from your graveyard that you need at any time is very important. Also realize Eternal Witness feeds right into Skull Clamp, which many, many decks use, and that in and of itself is just pure value. But guess what? Even without Skull Clamp, this is the card that you should run if you have green in your deck. No questions asked. Number 3, we have Survival of the Fittest. Yes, arguably the best tutor effect in green, one of the best. Survival of the Fittest lets you, for 1 mana and discarding a creature card that you don't need, you get a creature card that you do need. And it's on a stick. You can use it any time. It's very, very reasonable mana cost, can go into almost any deck. Lets you set up if you have a combo piece that involves a creature, lets you set that up, or multiple creatures. And it just gives you a way to sort through your creature cards in your deck with ease, in a flexible manner. Fantastic, fantastic tutor on a stick. Number 2, we have Seabourn Muse. Yes, another card that, if it lands, will likely make you win the game. This card just gives you pure advantage all the time because it's untap all permanents you control during each player's turn. Every time a player goes, you have all your mana suddenly available. You have all your creatures ready to block. You have all your combo cards. Everything is set up and ready to go during every person's turn, which means you run this card, forget just mono green, you run this in decks, control decks, you run this in combo decks, you run this in aggro decks, you run this in everything that you can. This card will make you win, and of course, obviously, it's best in various control builds somehow, but this card is crazy. Number 1, we have Sylvan Library. Oh yeah, you pretty much saw this coming. Having a very, very flexible mana cost, being one of the most broken, unfair cards in the game, Sylvan Primordial, if this card lands early on and people don't get rid of it, which many people don't immediately react to it, you have the long-term advantage. It fits in every deck. It gives you a Sensi's Divining Top effect. At the beginning of your draw step, you may draw 2 additional cards. So you look at your 3 cards, so basically those 3 cards, you choose 2, and for those cards, you put them back. So it's a Divining Top effect. But the most important thing to realize is you can pay 4 life for each of those cards, and you keep it. Yes, you heard me right. You have the option of drawing cards for life from a Sensi's Divining Top effect. And the thing is, in EDH, don't forget, this format is you have 40 life. So being able to do this a couple times and not dramatically lose the game can be a very, very big deal. Being able to draw 2-3 cards a turn for several turns really can matter. Fantastic sorter, fantastic card, and that's why I put it as my number 1. So let me know your guys' thoughts about my top 10 green cards for EDH Commander, and stay tuned for more top 10 EDH Commander lists. And as always, Roxabox90 signing out. I'll see you guys next time.